This video is going to be an X space with the disruptor in chief, Reggie Middleton. And stay tuned to the end. Today we do have the space is titled DeFi Visionary Reggie Middleton, FinTech Patents, Bitcoin Revolution, and NYC Bitcoin SV chapter meetup. That's just like jamming a bunch of titles in one that I could fit into a short little blurb there. So, but today we're going to go through some of the things about intellectual property and talk about these patents that exist, including Reggie's under his control, and then also his comments on N-chain patents. And I want to just fill in people a little bit. I mentioned on a tweet that I invited the chief IP officer of N-chain, and he did get back to me. So, he actually was eager to talk to Reggie. And actually, he said he would be willing to fly out to Reggie and meet him in person. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So, and he's the head guy over there. He's not just a guy who's taking phone calls. He's calling the shots on all the IP. So, he said he would be willing to fly out and meet Reggie in person. And whether or not he's going to come in today, I think it's up in the air. Seems like he's probably got to clear some red tape before he talks publicly. But we'll see. He's invited. He may be listening in, or you'll probably at least watch the YouTube video. But yeah, it would be interesting to hear the feedback on these big patent guys over the space, because one of the things I like that Reggie talked about before is that people who have they enter this new industry, DeFi and blockchain, and it's like unlike any other industry in any other space. Let's say you get into an industry, the first thing that you would do if you're a big serious company, then you would first hire a legal team to make sure that everything you're doing is within the law, it's compliant, and that you're not stepping on anybody else's property. And then you would launch your business just to make sure you're not putting all your time and effort into something and somebody already owns that space. But it seems like nobody's done that within this space. It's just like, decentralized, it's permissionless, and do anything goes in this particular space. So it's for whatever reason, they a lot of people just don't think that property rights matter.
Heard somebody else say it, and that somebody else probably got it from the media. But a blockchain is a subset of distributed ledger technologies. Okay, so blockchain may evolve and may be a dominant force going into the future, or it may be superseded by something like a graph, like hash graph, or any other, dozen or so, or multiple dozens or so competing technologies. So if you take a step back and say distributed ledger technologies versus blockchain, then it'd be a more encompassing term. And I could see distributed ledger technologies being a new paradigm in value transfer for the foreseeable future, as in multiple decades. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Right on. All right, cool. So let's see. Riz, anything that you'd like to add here, or Casey? Anyone else that wants to jump up on stage, feel free to request and ask any other questions or comments here. Now would be a good time.
Reggie, I just want to say I just drove from Gulf Shores, Alabama to Missouri. Took my son on vacation down there before he starts school, and I was listening to you with some of the other kids you were teaching and just smiling the entire time. You're an amazing teacher, and I hope you're still doing more like education out there. I really am looking forward to diving into your master classes, but are you still working with children, and how's that going with the education side of what you're working on?
Well, I love children because I have 3 of my own.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a chance to do it lately because I've been fighting. That's
Yeah.
what I do day in and day out, every day from morning to evening and in the middle of the night. But I do plan for that to move to the wayside after I show that some of the people who appear to be winning in the fight may not have been above board to begin with. And then I could get back to what I actually enjoy, which is, honestly, and it sounds so cliche, making the world a better place by making it more opportunistic. I don't believe in equal outcomes. I believe in equal opportunity. And then let the better person, the more driven person win. That lesson is what I teach the children. And when children see that they can succeed, whether it's somebody who looks like them, acts like them, talks like them, or is from where they're from. Instead of just one person, one particular group or type of people succeeding, they could see you succeed from basically learning and working hard, not just working hard. Because remember, slaves are the hardest working people in any demographic group, and they control nothing. Okay. And not just knowing things, because very few academics control the world. You have to have a combination of those two, and then there's luck that comes into play. And a lot of people don't bring luck into play, but luck is, it's part of business. Take it or leave it. You have some of the best practitioners and they get taken out. And you have people who are not the best and they get lifted up. But over time, from a probabilistic, statistics perspective, if you are the hardest working, the best performing, it's only a matter of time before you rise to the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right on. Reggie, you mentioned some of your, I think I seen back in the day, you used to have some posts that you were doing training, whether it was just, was it just for regular sparring or are you actually a trained martial artist?
Yeah, I was into Korean arts. I started at age 13. Um, I was middleweight and heavyweight champion at age 16, two different weight divisions, full contact Taekwondo, Judo Kwan. It was a hard style Taekwondo, not points, but very similar to what you see now in Muay Thai. Um, and my instructor was the U.S. Olympic head coach for the '88 Olympics. So I started out on the Olympic team, but I was young, 16, 17, went to college, chased girls, and didn't go all the way through. But a guy that I actually practiced with went in my stead under my instructor. But he got a silver medal from the Ivory Coast. He was a U.S. citizen, he was from the Ivory Coast. I'm pretty sure I would have got a gold if I stuck through it. But one of my early mistakes, the folly of youth. But I still work out, still practice. I'll be 57 in a couple of weeks, a few weeks, and I still look like I'm 57. That's a joke. I'm being funny.
So it sounds like you still do work out and train for martial arts, keeping yourself fit. You look look like you're pretty fit. So, you know, according to the BSV meetup you were at, looks like you were wearing shorts and enjoying the New York summer right now. You guys got your little warm few months right now. I imagine what's it like out there in Manhattan right now?
It's mid 80s and sunny with a slight breeze. It's very nice.
Nice. Beautiful, man. Yeah. So, all right. Well, as we wind down here, is there anything else that anyone wants to add in? Riz, anybody else that you want to add into this conversation? Okay. H, you've got another question. Is your hand up, buddy?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I would like to know, since we're still at the beginning of blockchain's technology and DLT, uh, can Reggie tell me if he thinks that with the Enchant's patents and also with his patents, all the foundation is already cleared, so that the next evolution is everything that's being built in the space is just the on top of the foundation, or is there still more to grow for that foundation to be built?
There's always more to grow as long as this planet is in existence and there are people who are alive. Every paradigm shift has a group who believe that this is it, there'll be nothing more. The Henry Ford is known to have been said, I wasn't alive, so I didn't ask him, but he's known to have been said, um, he invented the car on his own, the Henry Ford production line, because if you ask the average citizen um, what they would want for transportation, they would have said faster horses and better buggies. So, you know, there is always going to be innovation. The original foundation happened maybe a million years ago, okay? And everything is built upon that. The discovery of the manipulation of fire, the wheel, okay? And then after that, everything's been built on top of that. And yet, every time you have a large paradigm shift, a paradigm shift is a significant shift in the way people live their lives and do business, usually done through technological means or social means. Every time you have a large paradigm shift, you have the Luddites, and you look. I don't want to go through all the definition, but those who don't know it, look up the definition of Luddites, who say this is it or this technology is bad, etc. Right now, over the last few years, it was DLT, which some people call blockchain tech. Now it's AI. It's going to be something else in the future. But the only constant in the world since I've been alive is change.
Definitely. Change is the one constant. That's for sure. So sound
Okay. The volume is very low to whoever was speaking.
Oh, okay. So change is the very one constant here. It sounds like. Is that better?
Yes.
All right. Nice. Yeah. So let's see. H had mentioned some. All right. Who else's mic is open here? Anybody else? Riz, go ahead.
I'll add something actually. We're talking about IP and touching on open source. And Reggie actually wrote a great article on how innovation actually excels once patents and industry embrace patents or patented technology. He touched on the cellular phone or mobile phone industry and even the internet. So it's a great article. Actually, I'm going to look for it and see if I can link it below. But I just wanted to mention that because I think it's relevant.
Okay, nice. Yeah, thank you. If anybody else wants to request up, go ahead. Now's a good time to do it as we wind down. It's 3:30 here in 11:30 in California, what 2:30 there in New York. Let's see. A couple hands up, but I think we've already gone to you guys. So ultimately we just in summary, we talked about the DeFi, how the starting of DeFi, the beginning of DeFi with these 2013 patent filings, and then Reggie had actually built on Bitcoin, I think, and started building on Bitcoin.
I'd like to make the correction. The patent filings of 2014.
Oh.
Okay. My due diligence was done in 2013.
Okay, 2014.
It takes time to invent the stuff.
That's still before. Do you remember, some of the early days? I mean, do you remember Ethereum being launched? I mean, you guys were basically launching around that time, or like what right after? I mean,
I remember specifically. I was there actually when they made the announcement for the crowd sale for Ethereum. That was in Miami at the Miami Convention Center in this January 2014. Okay. That was announcing the crowd sale. After the crowd sale was about 3 or 4 months later, and then they started working on it and building it. And the first alpha was launched in 2015. Okay, so the invention was about 2 years before the launch. My invention was about 2 years before the launch. The patent filing was a year before the launch. Okay.
Right on.
And just so this could get a little complicated, but with blockchains, like you could have an inventor that says Bitcoin infringes on my crypto patent, and then you have all the armchair lawyers who don't know any law saying that's impossible. Bitcoin came before your patent because your patent was, you pick a date, say 2018, right? And Bitcoin white paper was 2008, and Bitcoin's Genesis block was 2009. Well, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin doesn't infringe on its patent, because Bitcoin is a work in progress and it's being developed, and things are being added to it through BIPs, Bitcoin Improvement Protocols, proposals. I'm sorry. And so, if you add someone's patented invention into as a BIP now in 2024 and it's accepted, and his patent had a priority date of 2018, well, then Bitcoin's infringing on his patent. It's that simple. Now, you can avoid that by not adding any new technology in, and you don't take any risk of patent infringement, but then you have a static product that is not competitive. And this was discussed in detail in an article that Riz was talking about, where I explained how competitive the cell phone market is. The cell phone market is a perfect microcosm of competition, patented IP, and conflict resolution in patents and IP, because it moves faster than almost any other technology that I could think of, except for maybe AI over the last year or two. And you have very, very moneyed interests, Samsung and Apple and Microsoft, IBM, etc. And yet everybody has troves of patents, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of patents. All the big leaders have at least 20 or 30,000 patents. That's their bare minimum. Okay, 20 or 30,000 patents. Yet nobody out innovates the smartphone industry, and nothing grows as fast. And how does this happen? Because patents give room for people to innovate, right? No small guy will ever try to innovate, because once you invent something, the big guys take it from you and roll over you. Patents allow you to claim ownership of your inventions. So anybody who says patents stagnate innovation, introduce them to the iPhone that they're talking on, or introduce them to semiconductors that they're using on their computer or through that same iPhone. And you could go down the list. Okay?
Yeah, right on. Good summary. Yeah, so very, very good, helpful, Reggie. All right, so anything else that we want to add, Casey, before we start to wind this space down? You had a great meetup there in New York City with those guys from the BSV or BSV Association, and I mean, is there any takeaways that you can tell us from that event that you felt that people should hear?
Are you asking Casey or me?
Yeah, no, I'm asking you at the event, when you went to that event, what were some of the takeaways? I mean, did you, the vibe? I mean, all we saw was a couple pictures of some guys in some limos and then a couple short clips. I mean, it seems like, what did you guys talk about?
Well, we talked about valuation, about macro stuff. I'd say the single biggest takeaway is a lot of people are asking me if, Bitcoin would go higher and the price of this asset and that asset. And I was explaining that this stuff is technology. And if you really are into investment and want to invest in this for the long run, as what I would consider an experienced investor and someone knowledgeable in the space, don't worry about buying Bitcoins, or don't worry about buying Ethereum, ETH tokens, etc. Buy the infrastructure. Because if you buy the infrastructure and it's successful, you have an implicit put option on any drop in price, and you have an implicit call option on any increase in price. Infrastructure would be what the big investors buy. A good example would be BlackRock. Not BlackRock, JP Morgan, right? Which owns either tangentially or through another party the infrastructure for Ethereum, MetaMask, Infura servers, etc. BlackRock is buying into a lot. Okay, JP Morgan, BlackRock, these are the entities that I believe the original libertarian anarchists, the banks have to burn guys wanted to avoid. The problem is these guys are the gatekeepers of capital, and they've been around for a long time, and they're very good at what they're doing. So notice they bought much more infrastructure than they bought Bitcoin, much more infrastructure than they bought ETH. And now after they've owned a decent amount of infrastructure, they control much more of the industry than the vast majority of crypto people are aware of. Okay, I believe that this industry is already owned by the banks and the asset management firms. And anybody who says I'm wrong, just point it out. We can have a discussion right here on X. Okay.
Let's do it, Reggie.
Yeah, and let's bring up the defender of Bitcoin now and see. Welcome to the stage, there, Satoshi. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, just listening in. Great show.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add here to the conversation, or comments or questions?
Well, massively, mate. Massively. It's the fact there is no point in buying a securitized asset, because if it's a security, it's centrally controlled, and therefore it has no common value to anybody. The whole point of Bitcoin is that Bitcoin has common value and can therefore economically sustain the network that it runs on. But the only way that a token can be commoditized is if it comes from a commoditized network. And the only way you can commoditize a digital network, because it's actually man-made and not or organically grown and sort of like naturally already existing is it has to go through that neutral organic growth phase. So first of all, you need a neutral and common, you need a common starting point. So everybody has to have a common, equal and reasonable opportunity of starting the network themselves. And then it has to go through neutral organic growth. You know, and you can only go through neutral organic growth and have a distributed token if the network itself is competitive. So Bitcoin, is literally the only token that's gone through this process of commoditization. Like literally, I mean, we've been at we now 2024. It started in 2009, and people still aren't aware of how you commoditize a network, because the network has to be commoditized in order for it to produce a commodity asset. If someone started something, it means the same thing can be started anywhere at any time, meaning an infinite supply, and therefore a fundamental value of zero. So you have to have a common starting point, which is why, Satoshi left 2 months before starting the network, releasing the white paper on 31st of October, didn't start the network till 3rd of January, and then step back and just let the network grow neutrally and organically without any central point of influence. Unless a network has gone through this process of commoditization, every single token that it produces is a security and economically worthless.
Well, Reggie, would you like to respond to that?
I'm tired.
Okay.
I don't agree with everything that he said, but some parts I do, some parts I don't.
Well, which bits don't you agree with?
The security portion. And
Well,
I think when you say commoditize, I think you mean basically beneficiary of the network effect. Am I correct?
No. There's no beneficiary in a commoditized network. A commoditized network is something that's common, and therefore it has no central point of authority, control, influence, or failure. If it's securitized, then a security is something that secures your entitlement to something. And if you're buying something that someone has produced that doesn't secure your entitlement to anything, well, that's securities fraud. Because you've only got 4 things that circulate within an economy. You've got goods that are manufactured, services that are provided, securities that are issued, and commodities that are either extracted or grown.
Well,
That's literally it.
If services are provided, then you have a beneficiary. Then a beneficiary is someone who benefits from something.
A beneficiary, a beneficiary is not a customer.
Well, one at a time. If nobody benefits from anything, then what's the purpose of participating?
Well, you have trade, you have goods and services. Like you have fair trade. Like, that's why you need money in an economy, because if there's 2 of you, you can barter, you can swap like for like. But when a third party comes into trade, that's when you need something of common value in order to exchange with one another, so you can use that at a later date in return for another good or service at a future time of a similar value.
Well, then that's a contradiction, because if you derive something of value, then you're a beneficiary. A beneficiary is someone who benefits. Here, definition: a person who derives advantage from something. So if there's no beneficiary, then there's no incentive to use the network. And if there is a beneficiary, then that beneficiary has an incentive to use the network. So it's a semantic issue. So you have to be very careful in the words that you use. I understand I understand what you mean, but I don't agree with what you said. But it could be that what you said and what you mean are not correlated.
Well, yeah, but this is what can get you in trouble with the SEC if you don't understand what I'm saying.
I hear you. I think the SEC has different motives, but that's what makes a market, right? You believe in X, I believe in Y.
Yeah, but this is not a religion. This is not spiritual. This is basic economics.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I pulled up beneficiary, right?
Well,
beneficiary.
a
noun.
beneficiary.
One at a time. A noun, a person who derives advantage from something. Okay. So if that definition is true, either you have beneficiaries in your system or you don't. If you don't have a beneficiary, then there's no incentive for anybody to use the system. If you do have a beneficiary, well, then that beneficiary has an incentive to use the system. So what you were describing was a network effect, but you're calling it a commodity. if I'm correct, I agree with you, except for the security portion. And if I'm not correct, then I don't agree with you. A security is something that has a very specific legal definition that passes certain tests. A popular
Yeah,
one would
no,
be the test with 3 prongs, but there are various other tests as well, which I'm not going to get into because it's minutiae compared, for this conversation.
Satoshi?
oh, what I would say is that there is no, you cannot have somebody that receives, if somebody has an advantage in a network, it is a securitized network because they have an advantage over other people. You have to have a common network so that no one has any advantage. And an economic advantage is not a central controlled advantage. They're completely different. Economic influence does not mean you have central control.
Well, under U.S. law that I'm familiar with, federal and state law, that is not the definition of security that I'm familiar with. Okay.
Well, securities laws is international. It's literally, does it secure your entitlement to a claim on something? If it doesn't, then it's securities fraud. That's why they abbreviate it to security. It is effectively certified secured entitlement, abbreviated to security.
Well, in the U.S., there is no international securities law. You have jurisdiction. You have federal jurisdiction, right? SEC. You have state jurisdictions. There is no international securities, definition in the U.S. that I'm aware of. Like I said, I'm not as smart as the Twitter guys. I'm just a dad. But from what I do know, okay, I explained to you what beneficiary was. I explained to you how you determine something's security by very specific tests, such as the 3 prongs of the Howey test, etc. And there's several others. And jurisdiction, state and federal. Like I said, I was tired. I could see getting into the rabbit hole with this. I'd rather step back and let you in because I'm going to have to jump off.
Thank you, Reggie.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today. And we greatly appreciate you having you on the space, and really thank you for the lively conversation here at the end with Satoshi. So,
cheers, guys.
Okay. And no problem. Listen, you don't have to agree with me for me to be your friend. So don't worry about it. Okay.
Well, reach out to me, Reggie. Honestly, mate, you need, it is so simple when you actually understand it. Like all this, people are trying to confuse people, basically blind people with techno babble or whatever. Honestly, it's so simple. It's really important for people to get to grips with this because if something is issued, it's a security. Like securities are issued, like a share certificate is a security. It secures your entitlement to the dividend. Property title deeds in the form of a certificate secure your entitlement to land. A token secures your entitlement.
I'm gonna have to jump off like now. So I understand where you're coming from. Okay. If you want, you could post and go to the Telegram group. You can have the discussion there as long as it's very related, or you could do it on the X post. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Reggie.
All right. Cheers, mate.
All right. Well, Reggie, if you want to drop down, feel free to, and we'll, begin to wind the space down. Thank you very much, Reggie, for joining us up for the great conversation today. Satoshi, did you want to add anything else to the conversation there? It sounds like you're, regarding this.
I just jumped in on the last bit, mate. Saw you had Reggie on. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then, when he said, oh, if anybody wants to discuss, securities and stuff, I was like, well, that's me, because that's a conversation that really needs to be had.
Yeah. In summary, one of the things that we talked about earlier was the end chain factor, because, Reggie has a lot of patents. He has, I think it's 4 patents right now that he's got on his Twitter, on his X page. And so, a lot of the end chain patents cite his patent, and therefore there could be a lot of synergy there. And so one of the conversations that I was suggesting was to bring on the chief IP officer of N-Chain and discuss, the intellectual property. So he responded to me, and he said that he would totally be willing to talk with Reggie and actually fly out there and meet with him to discuss it, since apparently they're citing a lot of his patents. So there could be a lot of synergy with the intellectual property side of things, on Bitcoin, and potentially with what Reggie has. So we discussed that. and it seems to be a wide open, an unknown. The big unknown is like the effect of this intellectual property, Satoshi. So,
Mm.
Hey, Gavin.
yeah, Mutosco.
No, no, I was gonna, in fact, specifically on this, Reggie, I wanted to ask him a question about the risk related to intellectual property. If you go on Coinbase's 10K under the risk related to IP, they've put the disclosure out there, but does that still protect them from any um, adverse effect on the stock price valuation, even though they're disclosing it, but they're not being specific to what the IP defense strategy might be related to your situation. Do you think that that has any significance on the price of coin as a share?
Well, again, I'm not a lawyer, but as I understand it, you would know what the significance is much more than Coinbase management. The bar for disclosure would be what the average investor would want to know about the business. So if you think that a certain patent suit is significant enough that you want it to be disclosed, that's a determining factor. That's the bar. It's like a prong of a test, like I explained with the Howey test, as I understand it. And that comes with duty of care and responsibility of the board and management, etc. Um, Apparently, Coinbase doesn't believe so. Either that or they're willing to take the risk. Coinbase is not a company without intellectual capital. Their chief legal officer, Paul Grewell, if I'm not mistaken, used to work for Pillsbury as an intellectual property attorney. And then he went to clerk for an intellectual property judge and then became a magistrate himself, which is a judge in Northern California, Silicon Valley area. So it's not as if they don't know what they're doing. And they have a full blown intellectual property productions department now. They hired a young lady, well, I don't know if she's young or not, hired somebody out of Capital One who got an award for being the most productive and prodigious patent filer in the financial services industry. So with that background, these guys are not necessarily neophytes. They know what they're doing. Whether they're right or not, it's the individual investor that really gets to decide. At least that's the bar, as I understand it, written by the SEC rules. Okay.
Yeah, right on. Thank you, Reggie.
Out of
Thank you.
curiosity, let me ask, do you think that's sufficient disclosure?
It is not. That's also because information is, I mean, if I wasn't following what you do, I'm not going to be privy to the extent to which they're under disclosing, right? So, and if that's the same bar that everyone has to have as an investor, and there's classes of investors, right? If you have a group of institutions that are going into Coinbase, do you think that they need to know all this? And do they care? And that's kind of why my question was, because if they understand the significance of it, should they make this more public and be more specific?
Well, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm definitely not giving legal advice. I'm giving a layman's interpretation. But I agree with you. And if you're right and something does happen, then there may be recourse legally. But I don't know because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. I said that over and over and over again, and I'm going to say it again. Okay? Just giving my layman's interpretation. Okay?
Speaking of Coinbase, I remember one of their disclosures were the, in their original filings was something about on the lines of that there was a disclosure about if Satoshi came forward and sold all of his coins, then it could affect the coin offering price, so I remember seeing that one in there as well. But we'll see how that plays out.
A much bigger risk than that would be if Craig Wright were to win his appeal and he was able to say that he owns and controls the Bitcoin white paper, if that appeal covers that, and that he could control what is called Bitcoin or BTC. that would be a significant risk because a lot of actual BTC, Bitcoin Core, has been purchased by the the Bitcoin ETF vendors. And so if they don't have control over the name, then the stuff that they purchase can be significantly devalued. That would be an industry shaking event.
Yeah.
But again, one more time, y'all can guess what I'm going to say.
Not legal
I'm
advice.
not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a dad giving his layman's, perspective on things. Okay.
Good. Nothing should be considered legal or financial advice here. We're just a bunch of laymen's, non-lawyers, hanging out, bunch of nobodies. And so, yeah, if Craig Wright does win on the appeal case, which I've talked a lot about on the videos, sounds like it's your opinion that it could be an industry shaking event.
Well, a specific industry. Those guys that bought a lot of BTC, and paid a decent amount of money for it, and if you look at the BlackRock prospectus under risk, that is a specific risk that is listed. They are not risking any patent risk, which is interesting enough because there's a lot of patents there. I think that risk is more substantial. But again, I am not a lawyer. And most people consider me not knowing what I'm talking about. But I'm going to close out on that note because I haven't eaten yet breakfast and it's almost 3:00. My blood sugar is low. And I hate to pass out on that X Live event because that would be very bad for businessmen.
Okay. Before you pass out, Reggie, we'll wish you best regards and thanks for jumping onto the space with us today. Seriously.
Okay. Well, thank you. I actually appreciate it. I like the discussion.
Nice. All right, Reggie. Well, thank you.
Okay. And anybody who doesn't follow me, please do. You can click my profile and join the go through the profile for the link tree. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to start doing the videos over again. And thank you, for everybody who did follow and join the Telegram official group through the link tree because there's plenty of scams out there. Okay.
All right. At Reggie Middleton on X. And there's a link tree on there and everyone can join that and follow that for more information. So thank you, Reggie.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Goodbye. Okay. And on that note, let's go over to, before we do that. Yeah. Just before we do that, go over to you, Riz. I just wanted to also make sure that everybody, recommend everybody subscribes to my YouTube channel. I post a lot of videos about this stuff. And then also X, I'm showing on the screen. It's at Gavin Gregory 0 is the new handle that I put on there. So please follow that and subscribe for more information. And Riz, over to you, buddy.
I just want to say thanks for hosting the space. It was a great interview. And yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And I think a good note to kind of wind down, or maybe a good topic to wind down on, is what Reggie brought up, was the Craig Wright appeal, man. It seems like I get so much people trolling my page and YouTube about Craig Wright's, about Craig Wright's not going to win the appeal. He didn't file an appeal. And it's just like the constant, this constant banter, it's just unbelievable. But I think could it be because of the effect of the appeal that Craig Wright's decision could have, and going back over if it goes back and reverses and he's got to go back and they say he is Satoshi, and then he's actually got the rights over the Bitcoin white paper. What are the effects of that, Satoshi? What would happen?
What's that? If he's got
if he wins on appeal, Craig Wright.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be like, crypto Armageddon. Basically, literally every single shitcoin would disappear because one, he invented the technology, which is blockchain technology, which allows for data to be linked together, which means it can't be deleted unless you delete everything, and you can't delete everything if there's no central point of failure, which is why it has to be on a globally distributed, economically competitive network. But yeah, it would mean that basically Craig can call out every single shitcoin that is imposing, well, what's the word, using his intellectual property. Well, yeah, and which they are doing, because I mean the reason they created this entire shitcoin market was to distract people away from the Bitcoin protocol, because the central banks can't afford any of us to be using, a form of, a commodity outside of, well, they can't afford us to be using a medium of exchange that's outside their central banking system that they have complete control of, because it would go against their, their aim of enslaving humanity that they've been working on for the last 3,000 years.
Yeah, sounds pretty substantial, man. I mean, really, it's going to be exciting, and you could follow my channel here on YouTube and on X for all and also Satoshi. He's been doing a lot of reports on the case, and I'll be keeping people updated on what's happening if there's any news. We do know that he applied for the appeal, that's for sure. So we can strike the troll comments about that. Oh, he didn't file an appeal. He never filed an appeal is correct. It's an application to appeal. That's the first step. And he applied directly to the appellate court for that. So there'll be some sort of a briefing that'll come out in a few weeks or docket, that'll be the next move. So we won't be able to see anything until that's basically something happens from the court. But that's what we do know. He did file the application for appeal.
Well, the thing is, I mean, again, there would be no point in filing, even applying to file for an appeal, if the market hasn't flipped, which it may do with Terranode, but there is no way anyone is going to proclaim that Craig is Satoshi Nakamoto when there is a $2.5 trillion fraud at stake that's going to be exposed by them doing that. There is no way. It wouldn't be safe for anybody to do that. And it wouldn't be safe for Craig to provide evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was Satoshi Nakamoto. So, applying to an appeal for an appeal before quotes, air quotes here, as they call knobheads call it, the market is decided. There's just no way. There is no way. It's too dangerous.
Too dangerous to do what?
For someone to either proclaim that Craig is Satoshi Nakamoto, or for Craig to prove that he is beyond any reasonable doubt.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see what happens. It's got to go through the legal process, and it's going to take some time before it all gets settled. It'll be freaking, like I said, interesting, earth-shattering news though if it goes back. All right, BSV Panama, thumbs up.
Well, the thing is, just quickly, Craig could prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that he is Satoshi Nakamoto easily. I could do it. I mean, but all we've got to do is look at what happened with Judge Mehl when he completely ignored the fact that every single independent witness had been completely discredited, and none of them should have been listened to, whatever, and constantly kept referring to him as Dr. Wright. If your title, your Mr., your Mrs., Doctor, whatever they want to call you, is proof that they are just simply referring to your straw man. The entire system is corrupt. And if you're a straw man, then you're not of the living, then you have no human rights whatsoever. The judge can't hear you, the judge can't see you. You literally, it's a complete mockery as to what's going on right now. So even in an appeal court, well, it depends how corrupt they are. But I mean, it's easy to show evidence, but Craig is going to have to appeal on the grounds that have already been ruled upon. I mean, good job he's Satoshi Nakamoto, because he's got the funds to be able to ride this out to the end. But it's a fine line and dangerous game he's playing.
He sure sounds like it, man. It sounds like a freaking crazy game he's playing, man. Hats off to the little guy, right? Like Reggie Middleton here, and even Greg Wright, because they're going against they're going against the grain, right? They're going against the system big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the BlackRocks of the world, the ETFs, these big giant institutions, but I will say that one thing that Craig Wright has going for him is he's got N-Chain behind him, and they're no joke. They are an 800-pound gorilla. They're huge, so I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily behind. Would you say they're behind him, or well, yeah, they support him basically in a way, right? I mean, it's a lot of his work, or most of his work is with the N-chain.
Yeah, I mean, again, Craig said he doesn't own anything, and it's a good job he doesn't, because Big Brother can just simply take it off him. So N-chain being a company that he works for, that owns the patents that he creates. But again, I mean, they're doing all they can to discredit N-chain by trying to get Stephen Matthews done for perjury. Stephen Matthews being the chairman of the board at N-chain.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. It's not a small little thing. They wanted to get him for perjury, right? Lying on the stand. That's a good point.
Oh yeah, because I mean, if he's chairman of the board, then he represents what N-chain is, and if he's a liar and a fraud and has committed perjury in court, then that's also a mark against the credibility of N-chain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be a strategic maneuver potentially to go after the patents. Sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And when you're dealing with high level business like that, it sounds like most of this stuff is all going to be like highly tactically planned out strategy. Like, how can we take down those patents? Well, if that guy over there is a fraud, the liar, that'd be a good starting point. Wouldn't you think? The court says that. Yeah. It'd be a good starting point. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah. All right. Anything else to add here before we wind this space down here? Anyone? Casey, Riz, anyone else on stage? Mila, I didn't see you jump back up. I sent you a co-host request a bunch of times. Casey, anything you want to add in that you feedback here before we wrap? Good.
Oh, other than this was wonderful. Thank you so much, Gavin, for everything you're doing to bridge these communities and just for BSB. And I know Reggie has another interview coming up with my friend Winifred Adams, which so be sure to tune in with that. I hooked him up with Winifred, so Making Life Brighter YouTube channel is going to have an interview with Reggie here soon as well. So keep an eye out for that, you guys, and have a good one. We'll see you at the top.
We'll see everyone at the top. Thank everyone for tuning in. Well, that's probably a great place to close here. And, we'll definitely check out that next interview there, and look for my video from yesterday, which was the Wright. It's called what was it called? The Wright. It was a cool little tagline. And it was with Jack Pitts. I had a thumbnail put on that one, and it's a really good performing video. It just came out yesterday, and it's like the Wright's Last Stand. That's it. And we talk about the Craig Wright appeal. We go into deep down the rabbit hole on that thing. Then I got one with Matt Welsh, BS. He's a Love BU. That's going to come out soon. That was just shot yesterday. I got one with Crypto Rick that is going to be shot today. So kind of a follow up from all the stuff he's been up to. And I had him on a few other times. And so be sure to subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already, and hit the like button, and subscribe on X. X is blowing up now. Seems like with the Trump and Elon stuff. So, all right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. I'll end the space there. So see you at the top.